In this next video, I'm going to show you how to create an elastic waistband using the zigzag effect and gathers. The other thing that we're going to have a look at is how to create this little rouleau tie using outline path, outline stroke, and how I can create the back from the front without distorting anything. I've already got the front drawn over here, so we'll take it from there. The first thing I'll do is the elastic waistband. So as you know, if I want to copy something, I'm going to go to the direct selection tool and I'm just going to copy that line. Control C, Control F, and I'll nudge that line down. Let's just have it go back to selection tool, go into preferences, my keyboard increments, I just want them to be 1 millimeter. Enter, and I'm just going to nudge that down, remove the fill from that, and I will change the color. So remember, we go X to toggle between the two, fill and stroke, and I'm going to stretch that until it's in line with my side waist. Having done that, I will ungroup everything. I'm going to copy it once more so that I can get my stitching line. So direct selection, move that down a little as well. Select that line and I want to copy the properties there. They'll be the same properties as we've done all along, which is the 0.75, 2 points, 2 points, and a round cap. Now, to create the zigzag or the elastic effect, I come up to Effect, Distort and Transform, and Zigzag. Here an option box will come up. I need to go to Preview, and at the moment it's a little bit too big. I'd also like it to be smooth, and I'd like a few more ridges per segment. So probably something like that. And this little slider over here increases or decreases the zigzag height. And I'm happy with that. Okay. So at the moment, it is still a line, but it has a zigzag effect on it. So if I wanted to edit that zigzag effect, if I come down into the Tools panels to this panel over here called Appearance, it shows up all the different effects. So you remember in Photoshop when a layer or something had an effect on it, it would say FX. If I double click on that, it'll bring up the effects on that particular line. I can go to Preview and make them more or less, or as they were, or if I wanted to, I could actually delete the effect. I don't want to delete the effect, so I'm going to go Control Z to get back to where I was. So remember, that was in Appearance. We open Appearance, and what we have is zigzag and an effect. To create the gathers, what I've done is I've actually used the pencil tool and just drawn some random lines. It's probably better to use the pencil tool because this gives you a little bit more of a free-flowing look. I go back to my selection tool. I'll zoom in to see what's happening over here because I don't like the look of that. It's got an extra anchor point in there. I'll get rid of that. Zoom out a little. And now, as you're beginning to become aware of, if I go to my selection tool and marquee over something that I want to group, so I'm marqueing over everything, I hold Shift and deselect the pieces I don't want. So at the moment I just want to have the gathers selected. I'm going to group them, and I'm coming to the stroke panel to change the profile of that line to probably the next one up, which looks a little bit okay, and I'm happy with that, and I might change that to 0.75. And if we change that to black, it will look like it's part of the garment. Change the zigzag to black, and we're ready to create the back out of that. I might also make that zigzag 0.5. And when I see it in 0.5, I think that it needs to have a few more ups and downs, so zigs and zags in it. So let's go to our appearance. Double click on the zigzag, and I'm going to put a few more ridges in there. Let's have a look at the preview, and I'm much happier with that. Okay, so except for that, I'm going to group everything else and then select everything and group it. The way that you group things in Illustrator makes it easy to work with things. I know that when I make my back, I'm going to have to rearrange my stitching, my gathers. So what I've done is group them separately. So let's just zoom in. So at the moment everything's grouped together. Control C, Control B to send that to the back. I'll just move that up, and now what I need to do is just move all the center anchor points up. So if I go to my direct selection, anchor, anchor, and anchor, I marquee over the three of them together and just nudge them up a bit. So what's happening is I need to ungroup. So remember, that's still grouped, but that's ungrouped. And this is where we can use our rotate tool and rotate from a particular point. So I've selected rotate. I come and I click onto that top anchor point so I can rotate those gathers from a particular point. And now I select everything again and group. So very easily we have created a back which we can sit behind the front, but we can also have as a separate back, as you see over there. So once we've done that, what we'll do is we'll go ahead and copy both of those over. So transform, reflect, copy. I'm holding Shift to drag that all the way across, and I will zoom in to make sure that it sits exactly on top of the other. And the best way to check that everything is completely aligned is if we go into View and Outline View. What I will do is switch off the bottom layer where the crow key is, and you can see that my shorts are sitting exactly on top of each other. If they weren't, you would see them looking a bit like that or the other way. So View, and now I go to Preview. I'll put my croquis layer back on and close that, and we'll get on with drawing that little bow over there. So zooming in, at this stage if you want to, you can actually draw that bow on a new layer. So if we come down here and we go create new layer and lock the layer that we're on, we can draw the bow now. So all I'm doing is using my pen tool, and what I will do is do it in another color so that we have a good view of it. So pen tool, I've got it in red, and all I'm going to do now is and don't come too close or you'll add an anchor point over there. So I've created a shape sort of like the shape that I'd like it to be. I would prefer it not to have that sharp point on it, so I come into the stroke panel, and where it comes to corners I go to miter corner. I'll just close that, and with my direct selection I'll just do a little bit of manipulating here. Let me copy that. So transform, reflect and copy. Because we can't tie a bow exactly the same, what I do to make it look a little bit more natural is I do a little bit of editing. So there we are, we have our bow looking a little bit more natural. And I'm going to make the stroke 1.5 looks. Yep, I'm happier with that. And once I've got that stroke size, I go to Object, Path, and now I'm going to outline my stroke and do it in default black and white. It looks a little thick, so we'll make the outline of that shape 0.5, and I'm happy with that. I'm going to draw a little rectangle behind it, well in front of it at the moment. Arrange, bring to front, and I'll group that. It's not allowing me to group it on my right mouse click, so if I come into Object over here and Group, that will allow me to group it. I'll do a little ellipse over here. Selection tool, and just with my pencil tool make it look a little bit more natural. Zooming in, I'll go in and just do a few adjustments. So direct selection, I might just take that down a little bit. I might add a line in here just to make it look as if it's overlapping. And I could even add a line over here, so I keep coming back to my pen tool. Remove the fill, toggle with X, selection tool to deselect, and over here we'll do the same thing. Pen tool, selection tool to deselect. And there you have a very simple bow. I'll just little Rouleau, I'll just add a little bit of shape in there, and with my selection tool I'll marquee over everything again, and luckily we have it on a separate layer, so I'm going to group it, select it, and I can actually come here, unlock that layer and move that back down to that layer and group everything together. And we can actually get rid of that layer now. So there you have it, the elastic using the zigzag effect. I use my pencil tool and and line profile to create the gathers, and I use my pen tool and outline the stroke to create the rouleau.